And now back to our hosts, Cliff and Freddie Harris.
Welcome back to Drugs Close to Home. We're here with Dr. Ricardo Whyte. And Dr. Whyte, we were talking about community. We want you to tell us about community.
When you think about community, the example that comes to mind is a family. In the ideal family, each member has a sense of belonging and they have a sense of purpose. What you find going awry a lot in families today is parents are not zeroing in on what makes that kid absolutely passionate, or I should say, what are they passionate about?
Right.
So that what you see is kids hitting about 12, 13, 14, and you ask them, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And they're clueless.
Have no idea.
I think in my own home setting, you know, my wife and I will get together with friends and we'll get into our wonderful conversation, and our children will kind of send them off to go and play by themselves, but they're kids.
Right.
You know, they play an hour, 2 hours, then they come, they want attention, and you practically treat them like a nuisance. And they get that message loud and clear, so by the time they're teens, now they turn around and now they don't want to spend any time with you.
Right.
Now you're not in style anymore.
Yes.
You know, and you fed that. And
Right.
what do? They end up choosing poor choices,
Right.
you know, and end up sometimes using substances.
You know, we've experienced that. You know, we had a support group at one of the academies, and these children tell us, I mean, they're, you know, academy students, teenagers, when they come home from school, they don't even eat dinner together. They go to their room, they eat their food, they have their TV, their computer. There's no family, even dinner.
So that you don't get that sense of
Interaction.
community.
Right, right.
And that is a powerful culture, a powerful experience to have to fight drug use.
Right.
And not just to fight drug use, but to help our civilization be a thriving civilization, because, you know, families have a sense of community. So that's an experience that I feel like people are not getting in families, and it's happening too often.
So in a practical way, how can we change that?
Well, it's focusing in on the details. It's taking a look at how much time do we spend together.
Right.
And let's get even more practical. What are the goals that we as a family are actually working on?
How many families have goals? You know, we never had a goal in our family, you know?
And goals, the good thing about goals is if they're clear and specific enough, you know if you're moving towards the goal or if you're moving away from the goal.
Right.
You know, one thing that we want to convey here that I'm working very diligently on is to teach these young men family, bringing them together. We got one goal here, and that is to win. We're going to win. We're going to be overcomers. We're going to learn how to be responsible for ourselves, and we're going to help each other to achieve this. And we are a family here. I keep bringing that to them, that sense of family and unity, which they have never gotten, because most of them here, you know, either father was never in the home, or the mother was an alcoholic, or the mom and dad, they never were together. And so here's this child, but now he's an adult, but he's still thinking as a child, you know?
So, I mean, so that definitely deals with preventing substance use, you know, reestablishing family. But in terms of, okay, so now you're dealing with a drug addict. I think it's crucial for the family to not see this as a problem isolated just to that addict, but looking at what might be some of the broken systems in the family that led to this issue in the first place. And so that's why we would encourage families to reach out to other families that are struggling with this issue, that are moving in a positive direction, but sometimes also reaching out in terms of treatment. I've had families bring in the addict and basically bring them in with an attitude of fix this addict because this is the problem, not realizing they might have a broken system that
Right.
produced the addict in the first place. And so now this is a chance for the family to actually take a look at, hey, where did the family system break down? You take practical things like, I don't know about in your cultural faith, but in my faith tradition, we talk about having devotions in the mornings and in the evenings.
Yes.
And one of the experiences that I had that was very, very compelling was I remember sitting with my daughter, and her just starting to weep and explain to me that, she didn't feel like they were caring for her, and she had some run-ins with other kids at school. If I'm not listening to that, who is?
That's right.
Who is going to listen to that?
Yes.
And so those are the kind of experiences we forfeit when we say, you know what, we're not going to come together as a family at some point, especially at least twice a day, or at least definitely once a day, and actually make sure we're connected, make sure we are fostering the experience of community.
I want to ask you a question. Can one family member, let's put it like this. You remember the children of Israel
Yeah, absolutely.
and the mixed multitude?
Yes, yes.
And Christ would not let them come in because they were always complaining and fussing and disagreeing, because that would affect the others within this camp, right? Same thing scenario for the family. If you have one in that family or in this unit that's very negative and tearing down everything that you're trying to build up to come together as a family, what do we do with that? How do you handle that?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the illustration of the mixed multitude, because Christ, being the inclusive and gracious God that he is, you'll remember the mixed multitude were allowed to come along with the Israelites, but there were standards. There were standards. So that when those standards got violated, that's when they might lose their privilege. So in a like manner with family, it's a matter of having standards and consequences. It's going to be specific, family per family, what standard it is that might work for you. But the crucial thing is you have the standards that the family community chooses, and then having the courage to actually deliver the consequences when that becomes appropriate. So yet again, there's love, but there's also justice.
Right.
Mercy and justice.
Right. I think, like you said, two activities are major, and that is to have family worship together and to eat at least one meal, at least dinner together.
That's crucial.
We teach these guys. In the morning we have worship, they have breakfast together, they go to work, they come home, they have dinner together. So it's that family pattern that we're setting for them to be together.
Absolutely, and you're talking about practical things, practical things that put a system in place that help us have a culture and a community experience.
Right.
It's very powerful.
Right. Dr. Whyte, I would like to ask you to maybe come and speak to these guys, about family sometimes, because it's so important, because they're so broken. They have no solid thing in their lives,
And of course, I'm open to that, so just, give me the date.
We're putting him on the spot.
Right.
We are asking him right on TV.
Folk at home, I want you to see how they operate. See this. No, but I love to be put on the spot in that kind of a situation. So, and obviously I'll make a plug
Okay.
for the Behavioral Medicine Center, where, they're just sometimes when people are just broken and they need that added support of the hospital setting, whether it's detox, whether it's getting the substance cleared out of you. But then there's the rehab part, where you have a full healthcare team helping you understand what recovery is going to look like, helping you understand where things got broken and then how to support it. So it's been a privilege working at Loma Linda University's Behavioral Medicine Center in their chemical dependency department to actually take a look at, hey, how do we put families back together?
And this is so crucial right here in DAP, because we want to bring this whole family unit back together as a whole family, a whole person. And sometimes it gets difficult. Sometimes you get discouraged, but you keep right on doing what God is going to do for us in the end of all of this.
Cliff, I really want to commend you for developing a system to help to show people what a healthy life looks like. Sometimes I'm walking into work and, I'll see your guys out there and I have such a sense of pride when I see them, when I interact with them. Because you see, these are guys that are putting their lives back together, And that's because you've allowed yourself to be used by God, you know, to put this system that's literally changing lives. So that's an awesome thing, and I just want to let you know.
Do you
I've
know
noticed
one
that.
thing about these guys in this program? I ask myself sometime when we have some of the guys that fall or they, you know, start using again after years of being clean, is it working? Are we doing anything positive here? But you know, in all of that, and they know how tough this program is, they come back here. They
Crucial.
want to come back here because they say, and I ask them a lot of times, why are you coming back to DAP? Because you know Mr. Harris is going to be tough on you. You know this program is serious. We know you know it's structured, and it's going to be a lot of discipline. But I know this is where I need to be.
Wow. I think it's crucial for families to understand that often when you're dealing with an addict, you potentially might be dealing with a 20-year career. You've got to be in it for the long haul. But I get so excited when an addict comes back because during that period of treatment, they're not hurting themselves. I often get the question, is addiction a disease? And my response to that question is type 2 diabetes a disease? And the reason I say type 2 is because type 2 is affected by behavioral choices. And so is addiction.
Okay.
Addiction is impacted by behavioral choices. But we treat the type 2 diabetic, well, we should also treat the addict. So it's crucial for family to understand this is a long-term process. It's a difficult process, but when that addict is getting treatment, they're not hurting themselves. So we want to welcome them back to getting treatment. We, of course, want to try to do it right, and you never know what the intervention is that might just make the difference for that specific addict in their specific situation at that period in their life. The other issue is when an addict comes back, sometimes they're inclined to think, well, they're doing the same thing again. And that's not true because the program has matured some since last they were there. The culture of the people there often has changed some, and that addict themselves have matured some, so that it's not necessarily the same exact program that they're coming back to. And last but not least, addicts never want to wait. You never want to wait until you're on rock bottom. Rock bottom is 6 feet under. So it's too late by the time you hit rock bottom.
Now, you know, this is the first time I ever heard this, is rock bottom is when you're 6 feet under.
That makes us feel so much better, Dr. Whyte. And we really appreciate you coming today to share this information with us because there's so many families that are hurting out there, and you have answered a lot of our questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to come.
And remember, we love you.
And Jesus loves you even more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. Rock bottom is 6 feet under.
You can't wait for rock bottom.
I like that.